Well, good morning, guys. Welcome back to the shop, and I am finally doing a roof on this 2009 Cardinal that's been at the shop for a while, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about my absolute frustration and how I'm done with the very expensive, high-quality, powered roof vents that the RV industry has been trying to sell us. I'm talking high-quality, luxury powered roof vents. I'm talking about two specific ones. The Maxx Air Fan Deluxe from Maxx Fan here, which traditionally I really enjoyed and recommended it to everybody because it does have a vent cover on it, but in the down position it's just like a vent lid. It doesn't have a high profile, and this is what it looks like. Now you can turn it on and the whole vent will open up, so it looks like this when it's all the way open. So that's what it looks like when it's lifted up like a vent lid. It is all sealed off underneath, just like a vent cover would be, compared to what it looks like when it's in the closed position. I do like that feature. But it also comes with a remote control, so you can do everything by hand without actually touching those controls up there. So I can go ahead and close the vent. But I can also have the fan going even with the vent closed, which does help circulate air inside the RV. They call that the ceiling fan option. It's better than not having a ceiling fan, that's for sure, but it's just recirculating the air right around it. Now you can also change the direction of the fan from blowing air in to blowing air out, which is a really nice feature too. Not every powered vent can do that. All right, which is really great, especially if you have two fans. You can have one exhausting air and one bringing air in. Really does help cool the RV off. Now, as much as I do like these are not without their problems, which is kind of inexcusable for being about $400. Most notably are two. First and most common one is this power lift motor. Has grease in it, and the whole thing leaks grease, and also the motor goes bad. The blower fan will also go bad. But if you've followed me along on my journey in my 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder, we've also seen that baking in the Arizona heat and sun, this vent lid deformed. The plastic couldn't handle its one job of being out in the elements. So I've had a lot of issues with the Maxx Fan Deluxe, and it's a very luxury high-end fan, which is about $400. That's inexcusable for all those problems. Now, before the Maxx Fan Deluxe existed, there was the Fantastic Vent. Now, Fantastic Fans pretty much built the industry of high-end RV fans, and they're going to look something like this. They have a bigger motor, a bigger blade, and move a lot more air for high CFMs. See that? Fantastic Vent. Unsurprisingly, for a 2009 Cardinal, the factory did install two fantastic roof vents. One right here in the galley, which is about, I don't know, 10 feet tall, which had its own wall-mounted thermostat and control. And a second one here in the bathroom area, you can see right here. Now, I would like to say no hate to Fantastic Vent, because they're not their own company anymore. I think they were acquired by Atwood and then Dometic. The vent is pretty much the same, and it did ultimately solve the original problem of the first non-powered and powered RV roof vents that you would have had. They replaced the original 14x14 vent that were fairly inexpensive and cheaply made and fell apart. But now these are about $50 unpowered. Well, even today, a lot of manufacturers will still give you this powered 14x14 vent, and this is approaching $80 to $90 for this fan that falls apart, that's loud and doesn't work very well. They had the first high capacity or high CFM luxury vent that they put on RVs, but they weren't without their problems. The Fantastic Vent still required a vent cover in order to operate in wind or rain or snow. Even these basic Maxx Fan vent covers, even though they do a great job and I do recommend them, are still going to cost about $30 to $40, and then you still have to install them. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time and you see me do roof inspections, almost all the time I run into a fantastic vent. I like to always make sure that we check the base of it because they are known to crack. You see, that's a crack in the plastic. The corner's cracked and fell off. Each one of these cracks is a potential water leak. And there's a lot of them. And you shouldn't expect that on a luxury, expensive vent. Again, these are about $400. And that being said, I've installed brand new fantastic vents where the pancake motor was broken already. The bow tie plastic motor mount has been cracked. And of course, on the ones that have a power lift motor, those have also a #1 failure point too. And of course, unlike the Maxx Fan Deluxe, these have a pin switch on them right here, which means the fan will not work unless the vent is open. So you can't even use that ceiling fan option. But I think maybe some of the newer ones you can do that. And oh yeah, this pin switch is also a very common failure point because it's in the weather. This gets corroded and it just has a push-in connection to the ground down below. Now, when the original manufacturer fantastic vent existed, like this one probably was, the manufacturer gave a lifetime warranty on all the parts, which meant a luxury top-of-the-line vent made sense because you would never have to buy parts for it again. Needless to say, Atwood and Dometic do not share that viewpoint. So what's the purpose of this video? Well, it's because I found new vents that I think are going to work even better than those other two vents, and they are a third of the price, and really not much more expensive than a basic non-standard RV roof vent or even the trashy 12-volt powered vent option, because they're only like $120 to $150 depending on which ones you get. And I really did need to change this one to a power lift option because of the height. I can't grab it with my hand. Well, in the bathroom, that's not a big issue coming right here. So as you can see, I already installed a vent here in the bathroom, but I still do have to install the vent here in the galley. And so that's a long-winded explanation just for me to tell you that this is not a sponsored video. I was just searching the internet looking for something that was a reasonable replacement that could be high CFMs, reversible, power lift, and solves the vent being open or closed, needing a vent cover, because I don't really like the look of vent covers. As somebody that replaces them often and sees them fail, I think they're kind of a hassle, and more importantly, it's another additive expense between $40 to $80 a vent. And you know, when you think somebody probably makes that, you discover, yeah, somebody does make that. Now, the first thing I would say is I found this on the old internet distribution center, and I don't know who really is the manufacturer of this. I think the most notable thing about this is that this is about $150. The retail price on it. Comes with a remote, has power lift, reversible motor, and I think you're going to notice a lot of the features are very similar to a lot of the manufacturers that are out there. I would almost wager to think that Fantastic and Maxx Vent Deluxe use the same components. The controls might be a little bit different right here, but this lift motor sure looks identical to all the other ones that I see on another Fantastic vent. This screen, which you get an extra one from, also pops in just like that manufacturer. And I'm cranking this open so we can see the other side. It has nearly the exact same bow tie 12-volt vent fan motor and the same plastic impeller. It even has pretty much the exact same moisture or rain detector on it, which I will even admit does lend itself to two possibilities. One being that the manufacturer of this has stolen patented motors and designs, or two, the manufacturer of the high quality luxury RV roof vents that we know of as Fantastic and Maxx Fan Deluxe might be outsourcing their motor and designs and not building them themselves anyways. But even though if you would look at this, it looks like a direct clone of a certain vent, the lid is definitely its own creation. Here you go. They're calling it the Hurrventer 12-volt RV roof fan. And really, it's this vent lid that sold it for me. If we were to compare it to a pretty standard vent lid, I don't know if you can see how much thicker it is. It also has this cool vented section on here with a replaceable screen on it. And it's hard to see underneath right here without taking the whole thing apart. But if I bring it over here to the sun, hopefully you can see those holes that are in there. They're kind of a one-way baffle. That is to say, it allows air to flow, even in the closed position. This is still going to be vented out. And the nice thing about that built-in baffle on it is that if the outside wind is blowing into this, it's kind of like a one-way check valve for airflow. So that means you can actually run this vent with the vent in the closed position. You no longer require any sort of vent lid or vent lid cover over the top of it like most RV vent manufacturers require. And even in the closed position right here, its profile is still less than these budget ceiling vent fans that the manufacturers have gone to now, where it doesn't even open up anymore. It's just a small and cheap bathroom vent fan that gets dirty pretty fast too, and it's difficult to clean without it breaking or falling apart. And while traditionally you might say, hey, if it's a third of the price and it's got to be a third of the quality, I don't see any difference in quality comparing this one to a Maxx Fan Deluxe or a Fantastic Fan. If anything, the vent lid on this seems even better. It's shipped with a protective plastic on it so it doesn't get covered in lap sealant as you're installing it. You get an extra vent screen. And while most manufacturers will give you the screws to install it, you also get a backup fuse for this. Nobody gives you that, so the quality is already there. Now I've already installed the non-powered lift vent in the bathroom area. So the first thing we'll do is see what it looks like. And it looks just like any other high quality vent. So before let's go ahead and open it up. All right, we can turn it on, out. Yeah, it's going out. And of course we can change it to air coming in. Oh, air coming in. Push the wrong button. All right. So we maxed out, we got a green light there now. Now if we go ahead and close this up, it is still moving. A little bit of air, a ceiling fan effect that the Maxx Vent Deluxe still had. Of course, the big test is going to be if I change the direction, will it exhaust air out? So I'll just go ahead and hit air out. Let me go ahead and max it out. And so far it's not too loud. I mean, I can feel air on the back of my hand. So let's go on the roof. Sorry, I don't have any high-tech wind sensors or airspeed tools. So here's the vent. I can feel air coming out right here. Let's see if I got... You see it fluttering in the wind there. Let's see if we can. Ooh. Yeah, so you can see it is still moving air. Is it as efficient as it would be if the vent was open? Absolutely not. It does mean if it was rainy or windy, you could still ventilate your RV without actually opening up the vent right there. It also means you didn't have to spend another $40 or $80 on a vent cover like you might have on that Georgetown over there, or even this Maxx Air 2 cover that we're going to see on this Jayco Greyhawk here. The nice thing about it too is that you don't have to worry about debris getting stuck underneath it. This plastic breaking, rattling in the wind. And even though this is a much more user-friendly one, these brackets right here could also cause water intrusion if they are not installed correctly, like I see a lot. But luckily, somebody installed this very nice. I don't think it would be unreasonable for about $80 installation be done just on one vent. And not having to install that vent right there means The new vent is $80 cheaper. And like I said, this Hurrventer non-power lift one was about $120. You subtract the cost of the vent cover, it's only $40 for that vent. Now, this is not, like I said, a sponsored video. I'm just mostly outraged that the manufacturers for so many years now have been making us pay an awful lot of money for almost the same amount, if not less features than this vent is. And again, how can it be sponsored? I don't even know who manufactures this. It just makes me think the manufacturers of those and Fantastic have been pocketing about $200 of free money because they're not building a better product at all. Now, it still may be yet to determine the control side of this right here, if it is equal to or hopefully better than most of the industry standards when it comes to pre-printed circuit boards, because even some modular manufacturers that have that vent in it have a proprietary control board that operates with their multiplex system, and I've seen those boards go bad after not even 2 years. And of course, the only way to get that board is from the RV manufacturer, not even from the vent manufacturer, because, you know, that's how the RV world is. This is going to go down the exact same way as any other roof vent. However, what I would recommend you do is first connect your power. Of course, I'm just using the Wago lever locks because I've really been impressed by those too. They are making everything a lot easier and faster. We'll want to make sure that this vent does work before we screw it down. I had a lot of those luxury, high quality vents fail me after I've screwed them down. Even though they were $350, $400. Like I said, I really have been quite pleased with these Wago lever locks. And this is about as thick a wire as I can probably put in them. Good on Cardinal for using high quality wire. Red is positive, white is white is ground, not neutral. Go ahead and hook that up. I got some flashing red lights, usually means the power is connected. So let's see, we'll go ahead and go on. And the vent is opening up. So that's half the battle there. All right. We'll go out. Fan's working, everything's working here. And what I will do is work. Fan turned off. But what I do want to do is open this about halfway manually. That should allow me to put all the screws in, as I learned from the first one I put in. Make sure the wires are out of the way. We'll joss it around until it feels pretty centered. About there. Do a quick little check. Looks good. And remember, this does come with the hardware for it. These screws are going to be important to use, mostly because of right here. You can't use a hex-headed screw or my favorite lath-headed washer screws like these, because they won't go through the top right here. But it does mean they made this vent very easy to replace. Yeah, and they're pretty nice hardware too. It's stainless steel, wood screw. So we'll go down into the channel and tighten up. I don't want to open this all the way because this would have been in the way of those 3 screws. And of course, when we get to the other side, it'll make more sense. Because of the design of this vent lid, it's got that louvered section on the back. If it's closed, we couldn't have got to those 3 screws. So that's why we wanted to open it up just a little bit. Just that easy. Okay, so all the screws are installed, and they even give you an extra screw just in case you drop one or lose one. And like I said, this is a very high impact, thick plastic here. This is not a thin vent lid like you would have expected on a budget vent, and it does have a little bit of like insulated properties to it too because it's so thick. Even on the sides it's thick. I don't know if you can get new vent lids yet as replacements, but it does look like they were designed to have the motors easily replaceable, the vent lids easily replaceable, and of course the lift motor and all that assembly very easy to replace. Now, for brevity's sake, we will go ahead and seal this up pretty fast, and we'll finish up downstairs. But this is going to go on just like any other vent or roof on a membrane roof, or roof vent on any membrane or RV roof, using whatever sealant you want to be using and is compatible with your roof. This one is a TPO roof. We'll be using Dicor self-leveling. The only thing I probably would give you as far as advice goes is that even though it probably looks like it will clear, I would probably leave the vent open until it cures completely. It has a pretty nice foam seal that seals this vent lid down, but this vent lid I think does get really close to the lap sealant right there, so we don't want to seal that close. I mean, I guess time will only tell the longevity of these vents, but I think from now on, until I hear otherwise, these are what I'll be recommending to any of my clients if they're ever going to be changing out a roof vent. It just makes a lot more sense. All right, let's go finish it up inside and see if the remote works. No, I really shouldn't at this point be surprised by the complacency and the lack of innovation from the large suppliers of RVs and RV components. I can tell them there's some good news. Really do doubt the robustness of the membrane switches and the control board on the vent. The rest of the components I think are going to be just as good as theirs. However, looking at the remote, it's just a remote. There is no mount to put it on the wall. You have to use Velcro if you want to put it on the wall. So you could lose this, and even though they give you extra screws and extra fuses and extra screens, you don't get batteries. So the bar isn't too exceptionally high if they want to throw in a couple AAA batteries like that, and a mount for the back of the remote control. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like the highest quality remote control I've ever seen, but it does look very similar to something we did just see. I mean, I guess those LCD screens are almost the exact same size. And they're almost the exact same information, except this does have a rain sensor on it because you wouldn't need that with the Maxx Fan Deluxe. Alright, good. I didn't seal it down to the new sealant. Man, that vent goes up far. Fan. Out. Pretty simple. Alright guys, well, the critique of the remote aside, I'm extremely impressed by both the power lift and the manual lift on these vents. Again, the manufacturer is calling it a Hurrventer 12-volt RV roof fan. For those that are interested, I will put a link in the description to the 2 vents right there. I'm not sponsored. I was just really impressed by these, and also really outraged that the other 2 manufacturers are charging $400 or so for what is a plastic box fan. It seems ridiculous at this point, especially when you factor in how prone even brand new ones are to failure. I've put brand new ones on, and the second I put a screw in, it cracked. At any rate, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope that inspired somebody somewhere out there to try those vents. I had to finish up the roof job on this 2009 Cardinal fifth wheel. It is pretty nice, and it's going to be much nicer now that it has a brand new roof on it. Good for another 25 years, right? Bye. And not having to install a Maxx vent and not having to install a vent cover like that means that 120 and not having to install that cover right there means that this other. So if you subscribe, at any rate, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I have to finish up my roof job on this 2009